Have you ever been on a flight where everything seemed perfectly normal until one quiet passenger became the reason everyone survived? What if I told you that a woman in row 9, sipping coffee and reading a book, was carrying a secret no one on that plane could imagine? One that could save hundreds of lives. Stay with me until the end of this story, because when the pilot whispered her secret code name over the intercom, everything changed. And before we dive into this breathtaking true style story, make sure you subscribe to Grow for Justice, because we bring you the stories that reveal courage, humanity, and truth where you least expect it. Also, tell me in the comments, where are you watching this from? It was Flight 472, a late evening route from London to Toronto, that a routine transatlantic flight. Families, tourists, business travelers. Everyone was exhausted but calm. The quiet hum of the engines mixing with the low chatter of passengers. The crew moved efficiently through the aisles. Smiles polished, safety instructions delivered, and lights dimmed for the overnight journey. Nothing out of the ordinary. Except for one passenger. Seat 9, her name, according to the manifest, was Emily Reeves. No one paid her much attention. She looked like any other traveler. Navy blue coat, small duffel bag, quiet presence, T.O. the man sitting beside her. She was just polite, reserved. But to one person on that plane, the pilot, she was someone else entirely. 2 hours into the flight, while the cabin descended into soft sleep, the first sign of trouble appeared on the radar, a blip, unfamiliar, fast, and closing in from behind. The co-pilot squinted at the screen, muttering under his breath, "That can't be right. There's nothing scheduled in this corridor." Moments later, turbulence shook the aircraft. Seat belts tightened, cups rattled, and a nervous wave of whispers spread. But the turbulence wasn't weather-related. It was something else. The captain switched on the fastened seatbelt sign and reached for the radio. Static. No response. The satellite link that connected them to air traffic control had gone completely silent. Then a voice, garbled, distorted, crackled through the emergency frequency that it wasn't English. And it wasn't friendly. The pilots looked at each other, alarmed. "We're being jammed," the captain said, his voice tight. That moment, every inch of training they had was tested. But what they didn't know yet was that salvation didn't sit in the cockpit. It was in row 9 that Emily Reeves hadn't moved since. The turbulence started. Her eyes were sharp, fixed on nothing, as if calculating silently. She wasn't a nervous flyer. In fact, she'd faced worse skies than this before, just not in uniform. Years ago, Emily had worked as a field operative for a special intelligence division that never existed publicly. Her code name was Echo 9, that she had been off duty for years, her identity buried under civilian life. In '01, not even the airlines knew she was on board. But fate, it seems, has a way of revisiting its heroes. The captain came over the intercom again, his voice low, measured but uneasy. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. We're experiencing temporary communication issues." In the cockpit, though, the truth was far worse. A hijack alert had been triggered. Not from within the plane, but from an external source trying to override their control systems remotely. Emily's instincts kicked in. She could feel something was wrong. Not panic wrong, but pattern wrong. She unbuckled her seatbelt and walked to the restroom. But instead of entering, she paused near the galley, listening to the faint crackle from the crew's intercom panel. When she heard the captain's coded transmission attempt, her blood ran cold. The words weren't standard, they were military-grade distress codes. Someone was trying to take control of the plane from the outside. She took a deep breath. Her life, as Emily Reeves, was over the moment she heard that signal. From that second on, Echo 9 was back. She approached the lead flight attendant. "I need to speak to the captain." "Now." The attendant blinked, confused. "Ma'am, you need to return to your seat." Emily leaned closer, her tone precise. "Tell him Echo 9 requests clearance." The attendant froze. The phrase meant nothing to her, but when she relayed it to the cockpit, both pilots turned white. Within minutes, the cockpit door opened. a move normally forbidden mid-flight. Emily stepped inside, sealing it shut behind her. The pilot, Captain Harris, stared at her like he'd seen a ghost. "Emily Reeves," he said slowly. "Or should I say, Echo 9? She didn't answer. Instead, she scanned the instruments, then the external radar. The unidentified signal was growing stronger. "What's happening?" she asked. Harris hesitated. "We think someone's trying to override our flight control via satellite. We've lost contact with ATC, and our comms are scrambled." Emily's mind raced. This wasn't random. It was deliberate. A cyber hijack, something she had seen tested in black operations years ago. But it wasn't supposed to be possible on commercial aircraft. Not unless someone on board had triggered the relay. She looked at the passenger list. 187 names, and one stood out, seat 14C. A man who had boarded late, no checked luggage, foreign passport, and had avoided the pre-flight scanner by claiming a medical exemption that Emily's training told her. Never ignore the anomaly. "I need to check row 14, she said. The captain didn't argue that he knew the stories about Echo 9. The operative who once dismantled a hijack single-handedly during a covert operation overseas. He trusted her more than the systems blinking red in front of him. She returned to the cabin, scanning faces. The man in 14C pretended to sleep, a blanket up to his chin. But Emily saw it. The faint glow of a small transmitter blinking near his sleeve. She approached quietly, pretending to adjust her bag, then moved fast, grabbing his wrist, ripping the blanket off that a compact device, wired to his satellite phone, fell to the floor that he reacted instantly, shoving her hard, reaching for the device, but Emily was faster. Years of training came flooding back. She twisted his arm, slammed the transmitter against the armrest, and kicked it away. Passengers screamed. The cabin erupted in chaos. Point 2 attendants rushed forward, but Emily shouted, "Stay back." She pinned the man down, disarming him. The device sparked once and went dark. In the cockpit, the controls flickered, then stabilized. The external override was gone. The pilots gasped as their instruments came back online. Captain Harris whispered, "Whoever she is, she just saved us." Security restrained the man, who later confessed to being part of an experimental cyber-sabotage attempt. Emily sat quietly afterward, her hands trembling for the first time in years. She didn't stay for the applause or the thanks that followed. She just asked the captain to make sure no one mentioned her real name. As the flight descended into Toronto, dawn broke across the sky in golden streaks. Passengers wept with relief, unaware that their safety had come from the woman they'd ignored all night. When the plane landed, she exited last, fading into the crowd, disappearing once again into the anonymity she preferred. But as she walked through the terminal, a voice echoed from the intercom, "Echo 9, you're never ordinary. And this world still needs people like you." It was Captain Harris, his final message before signing off. She smiled faintly, disappearing into the morning sun, her secret safe again. And that, my friends, is the story of the woman in row 9. An ordinary passenger who wasn't ordinary at all, that a hero who didn't wear a uniform, didn't carry a badge, but carried the courage of someone who refused to let innocent lives be lost. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to Grow for Justice, because we tell stories of truth, courage, and people who remind us what real heroism looks like. And now, tell me in the comments, where are you watching this from? Because stories like this are meant to reach every corner of the world.